that one team played the quarterback in the preseason, the Bears, and the other team did not. He only got like 12 snaps. And you're like, look at this. And then boom, the one guy crashes and burns down the stretch. And the other guy rises from the ashes and takes his team back.
Go to Mike Gill, who's set to join us right here on Birds 365. He joins us now, Mike Gill at Mike Gill Show. You can listen to him at 97.3 ESPN. Down the shore, follow him at Mike Gill Show and subscribe to his YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show as well. Mike, welcome to the program, brother. How you doing on this Wednesday morning?
Good morning, guys. I'm doing all right. Ready to go. Eagles, Chiefs. Should be a big week, right?
Chiefs. Super Bowl rematch. I don't know if you've heard that, Mike. It is a Super Bowl rematch early in the season. Chiefs don't look like a Super Bowl team, though. I joked, Mike, that the Eagles kind of broke me on the Chiefs. This looks like a descending team to me. What does it look like to Mike Gill?
Well, before the season, I do my who's in, who's out, which I pick all the division winners and the wild cards, and I have the Chargers in preseason winning that division.
Yeah, that's who I picked.
Friday night didn't really change my mind on that. I think about the Chiefs in this game, and I go back to, I guess there was a Patriot team that started 0-2 after they won the Super Bowl. Way back years ago. And then if this Chief team goes 0-2, the beginning of their schedule puts them in a bind where I don't want to say they won't get out of it, but I don't think they're going to be a 14-3 type of team if they lose this type of game here. Yeah, they had some injury issues. Look, we've seen this team kind of cracking a little bit. The age is starting to get them. Kelsey's not the same, explosive tight end. He's still very good, but it just kind of feels like it. And the other teams are closing the gap has been the bigger problem for them. It's not that they're devoid of talent. It's that everybody else is kind of catching them and their talent's kind of not moving to that next. It's hard to because they're fueled by the quarterback. They've always been a team that we're like, how did they do this? You got, Smith Schusters of the world and they never really had like these guys other than Kelsey. And a lot of times when your tight end is your main target, it's always kind of looked at as if you don't have a lot of weapons. The Eagles had that for years when they didn't have a lot of wide receivers for Donovan, and the tight ends would just kind of be like his security blanket. So I think the Chiefs, and we saw it in the Super Bowl last year, their defense is not what it was. It's not this elite defense. They still got some pretty good players, Chris Jones, obviously. But I think the Chiefs are probably, the Chiefs' kingdom is crumbling a little bit. I don't want to say it's crumbled, but it's crumbling.
No, I don't think it's crumbling. I think they're still a playoff team, but I don't think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Now, maybe.
Well, you said that last year. We've been saying that for years. Like, I don't know how they keep it. You can only keep winning one-score games for so many years before that pixie dust starts to fall apart on you.
Well, maybe it's the opposite. Like last year, they were winning a bunch of fluky games, and they're winning those one-score games, and you said, this is not necessarily sustainable, but they sustained it right up into the Super Bowl. This year, I think it could be the opposite. They struggle for a while, and they've done that in the past, and then they take off late. I could see that happening if Rice gets back, if Worthy gets healthy, and they put some speed on the offense.
Well,
I could
the
see
Worthy
them getting
thing is big because they make that trade, and people are like, how do you make that trade and give them a speed receiver? With him being out, that really hurts the receiving core. Obviously. Pacheco in the run game, he's a really tough runner, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy because of his running style. The offensive line was a problem in the Super Bowl last year. We'll see how that holds up. That was because of some injury situations. So, this is going to be a really interesting season for them. But, the fact that the game is there, the 425, the place is going to be crazy at 0-1. It feels like you're in a really tough spot, but you're in a spot where you can really alter, their season by beating them, and then really change the complexion of yours by starting off 2-0, with a game that really feels like if you lost this game, it's AFC, it's Super Bowl revenge type of game. But it could really tell you a lot about who the Eagles are if they can go on the road and get this one.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs need it more than the Birds, to your point, though, Mike. I mean, they lost that week 1 game versus the Chargers. Now they're coming for a home opener. I think the Chiefs need it more. That's probably one of the things that they have in the category this week coming into the game. They need it more than the Eagles, at least it feels like they do.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, I don't want to go too far down the road, but the Eagles do play the Rams next week, a team that wants to prove that they're on the same level as the Eagles. Then they play Tampa, a team that's given the Eagles fits over the years. So the Eagles lost this particular game. You've got a couple games lining up behind them that other teams are going to be saying. What I'm saying about the Eagles is we can really dent your season right now early on if we take advantage. So I think this is a big game for Philadelphia in the event that they slipped up in one of the next two to get this. Now, they went 2-2 last year and then ended up, taking off. How many times can you go 2-2 and then take off to the extent that they did if they really want to win back-to-back Super Bowls?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, the AFC part of it makes it a game that if you are going to lose, it's not that big of a deal from the standpoint of looking down the road. But they're all big deals in the NFL because you play so few games, and that's the whole thing. That's what makes them all important. So I'm sure the Eagles will want this one just as badly as they want every other one. And to your point, this first 4 games of the schedule looks like the toughest part of the schedule overall to me. So you don't want things going in a really negative direction quickly, and all of a sudden the Rams upset you, and then you got to go down to the hellhole, and you're 1-3. Could you imagine that?
And it's funny because Tampa Bay has had all sorts of problems with Atlanta. I think Atlanta beat them both times last year.
Yeah,
This time they go to Atlanta, and they're not even at full strength, and they beat the Falcons. That Tampa Bay team, the rookie receiver they added, if they get Godwin back, they're going to have 3 really good weapons. That Tampa Bay team is always seemingly, because that division is just so nobody looks at that division and says there's a really good team there because all those teams kind of stink. But that Tampa team, as the Eagles have known, they've given them problems, but they might give other teams problems this year now.
Yeah, they're going to be good. I like that team a lot. Mike, what'd you think of the week 1 win? I mean, I don't want to go backwards. Obviously, we're prepping for the Chiefs game, but we didn't have a chance to talk to you after the Eagles played that opener on Thursday night. Kind of a crazy game, Mike, that had a little bit of everything. What were some of your takeaways on the game, the way the Eagles looked, the way the defense looked, something that we've talked about a lot this season? What were your takeaways from the game last week?
Well, a couple things. One, obviously it's week 1. No one's played. You don't look like you're Chris. You don't look like you're at your optimal level. But one of the things that I think you should be able to do, even in week 1, is do something that the Eagles were able to do last year consistently and weren't able to do Thursday night, which is run that game out. Usually in the fourth quarter, when that offensive line has been beating you up all day, you hand the ball to Saquon, 7-minute drive, game's over. Now, they had an 11-play drive. It didn't really go anywhere. They only got like 35 yards on that drive. They punted. Then they got the ball back and went 3 and out. Normally in that situation in the last, with the Saquon Barkley turn around, he either bangs for a long 50, 60-yard run or that line just keeps the sticks moving. And I thought that was an interesting part of the game where I'm watching it and you're standing here. Well, it was like 12:30 at night, so I wasn't standing anymore. But I'm saying they're going to run this game out. This Dallas defense, and they even talked about it during the broadcast. Can the Eagles' big offensive line wear down this smaller Dallas team? And that was something that I thought, man, this is not like something that last year they were able just to end that game. So that was one thing. All the other stuff, A.J. Brown not being a factor. Last year I remember having this conversation probably right here with you guys. Oh, Devontae Smith got no targets in game 1. And that was like a huge thing. How come they didn't throw the ball? Who the hell cares? They won the game. Who cares who gets the ball? 5 weeks from now, you got to remember that A.J. Brown had no catches in the first week of the season. No. So I like the fact that they won a game, and Dotson was a key factor. I don't want to say key. I mean, he was a big factor in the game. He had a huge catch, but that's what the third guy needs to do. Make a play that breaks the backbone of the other team. You don't have to have 10 catches, but make the one catch you have be the one. So that was something. The fact that one thing we always say, oh, they got to get Goddard involved. When's Goddard's week? He had 7 catches. So they have Goddard. They had Doxson. The other 2 will come, but can they run that game out? They were able to do it last year. They didn't. And of course, the defense, you had all sorts of – you can't read. That's like trying to evaluate a Sixer game with no Joel Embiid. Like, you don't have Jalen Carter. It's just not a real game, man. What am I supposed to take from that game? Now, I will say that with Jalen Carter out, obviously it didn't go well, but they really settled in after that and fixed it and figured it out. But the first half was a mess, them trying to figure out what to do without him. The Adoree Jackson thing, I've said all along, I think Jacorian Bennett will probably be the guy that ends up taking over that job. And I thought Bennett did a nice job in the small sample size that he had. He comes up, he closes, man. He's got some closing speed, and he'll tackle you. He's a guy who he'll let you catch it, but he comes up and makes a tackle. So a lot of evolution we'll see on defense with Carter out there this week. But those were some of the that was my quick takeaways from the game.
Yeah, pretty good.
I'm 48 years old. I don't know how I remembered back that far.
Yeah, that's tough. I've already turned the page. And that one of the big page turners was Cedarius Smith. I think a clear indication. Hey, edge group isn't good enough. Had to bring somebody in. How much do you think Cedarius Smith can help this team, Mike Gill? At age 33, he's just turned 33 this week.
Yeah, that's an interesting. We were talking about this yesterday because they went out and got they made the trade 2 years ago. The guy from the Bears. What the heck was his name?
Robert Quinn,
who had been coming off of a season the year before.
19 sack season. 19. Not double digit. 19.
There you go.
Well, it is double digit. That's a big number.
I told you, I'm 48. I can't remember back that far, but I knew they got a guy for the Bears who had a lot of sacks. Robert Quinn, 19 and a half sacks. Yeah. So people are trying to compare it to that, but Robert Quinn had injury issues. Yeah. The Bears kind of just gave him up because he was hurt. By all accounts, Cedarius Smith is a healthy man at this point. And last year, 5 sacks in Cleveland, 4 sacks once he got traded to Detroit. I think as a rotational player, he probably is an upgrade over what you had. Now, Uche, I think I saw a stat today. He had the best, win rate of all edge rushers in the league on Sunday.
He was good.
Not to mention Nolan Smith was on that list as well. So you put Jalen Carter there, that changes the dynamics for Nolan Smith, Uche, Jalen, everybody. So I got to imagine Cedarius Smith is licking his chops to be able to get out there and play. Now, can he still play? Does he have anything left in the tank? Vic didn't give us a lot on that yesterday. He was kind of coy about it. Like, I don't really ever seen this guy play before. Sure.
I think he's seen him. Yeah, Vic's full of shit. He's been around.
I was going to say, for a guy who generally talks with truth serum, I don't know this guy.
From the standpoint, remember, he's a defensive guy. He's not looking at the opposite defense. He's looking at the opposite. Yeah. So I guess you can frame it that way. But
so that being said, though, I do think he will have an impact and a role on this team much more than we saw a guy like Robert Quinn have a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, better be better than that. Robert was a good dude, but yeah, he had nothing left. That's your concern. Anytime you bring in a guy who's older, it happens quickly.
Yeah.
One day do you
like the fact that he didn't go to a training camp and didn't have to
do
that? And he's he kind of did it on his own terms, or would you have rather seen him already kind of lathered up to get ready to play? Because I would imagine he's going to, the Eagles did this a couple of years ago, but that wasn't until Thanksgiving when they brought in Sue and Linval.
Yeah. No, I like it. I think, by the way, I think Howie Roseman's churn in August as well, which has continued now we'll talk about Tank Bixby here in a second, has continued into September. Gives you a clear indication what the offseason means. I mean, ultimately, the offseason, when they go to 18 games, is going away. I firmly believe that. We're not going to have OTAs. We're not going to have minicamp. It's going to be you're done, and then you come in for training camp like 2 weeks earlier, maybe. Because that's all the NFL players win is quality of life issues. And it's not going to matter a whit. And it might matter a little bit with younger players. But for veteran players like Cedarius Smith, I don't want him wasting any miles on the tread doing nonsense.
Right.
I think it helps.
You see this becoming more of a trend with these older guys in the NFL. They don't want to go to training camp, and they want to pick and choose where they want to play. I don't want to go play in Cleveland. That team's not, I'm not going to waste my time and my health playing in Cleveland at this stage of my career. I'll wait until there's a team that needs my services. So we're seeing this happen a lot more. And the fact that the Eagles have done this before and it's worked out for them. I mean, when they brought Joseph and Sue in, those two guys were a big help for that team.
No doubt. Mike, what do you think of that cornerback 2 spot, man? A lot of Eagles fans are not happy with Adoree Jackson, and Vic Fangio said again he will be the starter at cornerback 2. How much of a problem is it in your eyes, and what do you make of it? What's that?
Yeah, he said right now. I mean, that could be like as I'm having
right now. Yeah,
he said right now, like as I'm having this conversation. That doesn't mean on Sunday that could change. That's what I took from it. And John, I know you asked the question about Adoree, and said, hey, he had a tough go of it, but I think initially I said all along I think Bennett will be the guy, and I thought he played well again on Thursday, but it seems like they kind of just want to get Bennett to catch up to everybody. Like there must be something that he is not 100% ready for yet, because to me, just watching those two guys play, you were there, John, I think you could see the difference in Bennett's closing speed against Jackson's, just he gave up 3 catches on 3 targets, Bennett did, but only for 20 yards. I mean, so he came up and made tackles where Jackson is getting, beat in the, and then he's got to chase and tackle. So he's giving up yards after the catch as well. If you're going to get beat over there, fine. You got to make the tackle right away. You can't give up these yards after the catch. And, I think Jackson on borrowed time, but is Bennett the overall answer, or are they still searching? They've made 6 trades since August, I think. So could another one come, or come off?
Well,
similar to, they looked at Mike Hilton the other day. Now, I thought the big thing yesterday from Vic's press conference was they prefer Cooper at nickel. So that kind of was like, we are not moving him to the outside, as many people hinted at when they brought Mike Hilton in for a visit, who is a slot corner.
Yeah, a lot of people made that connection, me included. I said, if they're bringing him in, he's not playing outside. He's 5'8", 5'8 3/4. He's not playing outside. So could be an indication, but Vic shut that down. Nick shut it down a day earlier, by the way, as well. So doesn't look like that's in the cards. My only concern with Bennett, I think ultimately he's going to be the starter like you, Mike, but he hasn't wowed Vic to the point where he's getting to that. He's willing to wait. And, part of it might be, look, Dallas has really good receivers, even though CD Lamb started dropping the football. Those guys, him and Pickens, and even if you want to go down to Turpin and Tolbert, they have speed, they have big playability, they can get open. This week can kind of get by with anybody. If Worthy doesn't play, Rice is suspended. You're talking about Hollywood Brown, Juju, you brought up, and Tyquan Thornton. I mean, this is a chance for everybody to look good in the secondary.
Yeah,
and make people feel a little bit better.
This is a week where you could do your job and still look bad because of how Mahomes compromises. And if he's running all over the place and the receivers are running all over the place, and you just end up throwing a ball in Jackson's direction, he may have had coverage.
Yes,
forcing Mahomes to run around.
You have to worry about the off-schedule stuff. Yeah, that's true.
Exactly, and we know Mahomes is one of the best at that in the league. Now, I would just say this: Adoree Jackson is a fine veteran. He's a first-round pick. He's got plenty of talent. He played with the Giants the last couple seasons, and the Giants defense has been good, not great. It's going to be really good this year, but I don't think he was a guy that on that team stood off the page at you. And now you're bringing him into a Super Bowl hopeful team, and you're saying, hey, we're going to a guy who played on a really bad team the last couple of years. Can you come over here and be a part of a Super Bowl level defense? That to me is where I'm like, I don't know where Adoree Jackson is the right fit for this team. Now you might say, what's up with Jacory and Bennett? Bennett's got a lot less of a resume of who he is and where he's played and some of the defenses that he has been a part of. And what we do know about Bennett is so far that he obviously can tackle. That's one thing I think this defense, you have to have 2 years ago when they really, really, really struggled when they went 10-1. They couldn't tackle anybody in that secondary at all. And you give up those catches, you got to be able – that's what this league is about. Getting the ball to guys in open space, hope a man miss. If you can tackle, that's a big factor.
Yeah, it is. And not busting coverages, that's a big factor, especially in this defense. So when you hear Vic, his description of Drew Makuba was interesting. He did okay. He had a couple major busts that hurt us and could have hurt us even more. So looking for him to improve. When you're that honest, that's rare. You'll never hear Nick Sirianni say somebody had a couple busts or somebody ran wrong routes. He might. Yeah, he did do it once early in his career with Jalen Reagor, explaining other guys did not do their job on a particular play. Other than that, I can't think of him sort of throwing anybody under the bus, and probably learn from that. What do you think of that sort of tough love, if you want to and say, yeah, I had a couple busts, which I don't think is bad personally.
No, listen, I would imagine too, and I don't, but I think it's okay for the coach to say, hey guys, listen, when I go talk to the media, I am going to say some things. I want to tell you right now, I'm being upfront with you, but I don't want to, you guys to take any offense to this. I'm just going to, I think you can have that conversation behind closed doors to let you know, hey, I'm going to bring this up, but we know we're working with you on this. Makuba's a rookie. He missed some time in training camp. I think ultimately the fact that he was out on the field shows you what they think of him, right? Because last year, Cooper missed all that time. He didn't play till the 4th week of the season. Now, I know Vic explained that they were different situations in terms of the injuries, but that's definitely a spot that it didn't factor into the game big time on, because as you just said, the big plays, if you try to go down the field on the Eagles and the safety lack of communication or something in the coverage down there ends up faltering for them, that'll be the next spot of, because Adoree Jackson just had such a standoutish night in terms of the targets at him. He got all the attention. But if next week it turns into the safety position, that'll be the next position where you're going to hear. So for the first week, I think it's okay to give them tough love to say, hey, listen, you didn't hurt us this week, but you got to be better still, even though we won the game. Look what happened in Miami. They're complaining about a complete disaster. These teams need this kind of tough coaching and tough love on them.
Yeah, I would say, by the way, Mike McDaniel, dead man walking. He has lost that team, man. He has lost that team. But you're right about it shows that he's out there.
What do you do when you're this early into a season?
I don't know what you do.
Yeah. With Makuba, though, I want to circle back to that, because you mentioned, I think you're right. The fact that he's on the field indicates that the Eagles have a lot of confidence in him. So when you see that, and they're throwing him into the deep end of the pool, so to speak, even though he missed some time, what does that say about Bennett? They're not willing to throw him into the deep end of the pool. Is that just by circumstance a knock on him, that they're saying, yeah, he's not ready yet?
That's a fair question. I would say because they have a veteran player in that spot where they don't really have that. Now you could say they have Marcus Epps, but he was gone, came back. He didn't play under Vic. But I think the fact that they do have Adoree Jackson, you have that veteran security blanket that you feel like, okay, we know he can get us through a couple of weeks, but you also don't have to be tied to him long term because he's a veteran. So hey, can he get us through, like, Avonte Maddox, just get us through 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's the combo I made. Avonte. He's this year's Avonte.
Right. Just get us through 4 weeks so we can get this guy up to speed. Don't cost us a game. Now, some people say, you almost cost us a game. Yeah, he almost did. CeeDee Lamb makes a couple catches. We're having a lot different discussion today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of bad drops by CD, man. Oof. But that's week 1.
CD had 110, and I think he had probably easily 90 yards of drops. I mean, he would have had a 200 burger in that game.
You know
Awesome.
what's funny? In the Monday night game, Minnesota and Chicago, it's 17-6 Bears. They look like they're, on their way to possibly winning this game. And they're talking about how different those two teams approach the preseason. That one team played the quarterback in the preseason, the Bears, and the other team did not. He only got like 12 snaps. And you're like, look at this. This is and then boom, the one guy crashes and burns down the stretch, and the other guy rises from the ashes and takes his team back. So this whole preseason versus no preseason, we get it all the time. You got the old heads who say, you got to play the preseason. I got to see it thrive. We go back to the Sam Bradford moment and say, who the hell cares what you did on August 12th? That is not translating to anything you do on September the 12th. Because if you play in the second preseason game, you're still not playing for another month before the next game actually happens. So, nobody's playing in the preseason. And even if you really did, the time off between the last preseason or the second, because you're not going to play in the third preseason game.
Yeah.
So you would be playing in the second preseason game. The time off from the second preseason game to when you actually play is about a month. So the whole, no one's playing in the preseason, I don't think if they did play the preseason, that's fixing any of the problems that we're seeing here.
Going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, Mike Gill, with the game coming up this weekend. The Chiefs, we just talked about them a little bit. I don't think they're the same football team. What do the Eagles have to do to be successful in this game, in your opinion? Obviously, they got Mahomes and not much else. They got Chris Jones, and they got a couple other players on defense. But
Duffy's pretty good over there.
Yeah, they got a couple guys over there. What do you think the Eagles have to do to be successful this weekend versus the Chiefs?
Well, obviously, you had Saquon. I think he had about 60-some yards in the game. You'd like to see I don't want to say he has to get 150 yards every game. It's can they use him in the way that they are able to get a lead and then utilize him to sustain that lead. It was something that they couldn't really do in the game against Dallas, and that allowed Dallas to take a shot. And I would imagine if the game is that close in the fourth quarter and Mahomes has the ball, you're going to feel not very good about that situation. I mean, Dak Prescott had a chance to win that game with CeeDee Lamb. He made the throw. CeeDee didn't make the catch. Now, I can't say that the receivers in Kansas City are better, but Patrick Mahomes is going to put them in position to make plays if the game is that close. So can they establish the run the way that they were able to last year against this particular team and then make Kansas City play from behind? Because one thing they don't have is they don't have this big play offense. Even last year when they were a solid, really good team, it wasn't a big play offense. They're not a big go down the field. Everything they do is kind of nickel and dime their way up the field with Mahomes kind of just being precise and improvising. So can you keep the game in your favor, get a lead, and then run that game out? Something they could do against Dallas the other night. And then, of course, the secondary is going to have their hands full covering for as long as you have to with Patrick Mahomes. But last year, one of the big things in that Super Bowl was they got pressure on him all day long. Can you get that same pressure without Milton Williams and Josh Sweat? They're not here. They got a lot of pressure in that game the other night. Now, Jalen Carter being back, that'll obviously add to turn the pressure up a little bit. But this is going to be a fun one to see. All right, you had no Carter. Now you do. What does that do for Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, and that front four to see if they can dial the pressure? Because in the second half of that Dallas game, they had to send an extra guy, and they don't generally like to do that.
Yeah, they don't, and they had to do it for the run game as well to put Jahad Campbell back to put him on the front to sort of turn it from a 4 to 5 man front, which he prefers not to do. So, a lot of things you have to clear up if you're the Eagles, no question about it. But you brought up Barkley there. I haven't talked about him that much because I thought he was fine. I didn't think there was any issues, but a lot of people are panic stricken because he averaged 3.3 yards per carry. He averaged 6.2 yards per carry last year. What's wrong? They threw it only one time 10 yards down the field, and that was the big shot to Jahan Dotson, which worked out well. Kevin Patullo, what's going on? Are you a lot of people are worried about Kevin Patullo because they don't, they're loading the box against Saquon. They're running into heavy boxes. They're not throwing the football down the field. I thought it was pretty good. Am I crazy?
No, because it's a chess match, and it's a long chess match. It's a 17-week chess match. Is he setting more things up? Hey, I don't want to do this week. I don't want to show this week. I don't want to have to go to this stuff this week. Plus, I don't know. What do we think about AJ? Was he 100%? Was he just kind of decoying out there? Was he a guy that they just didn't really have in the game plan? I can't imagine that unless he was something compromised. I mean, he did not look like he was himself the other night. And by the way, I thought his answers after the game were not very AJ-ish, right? Where like, I got to get the ball. We got to do a better job. No, that's the way we won this. I mean, he was very melancholy about his role, seemingly anyway. You were in there, John. Maybe he's yelling and screaming in the locker room.
No, well, he's not a yeller and screamer. Even when he does say like passing, it's very tempered. It's not,
Well, that's my point is that, so what you want to see each week is, can you peel another layer? Is there another layer to the offense? And I saw it for the first week. We saw a layer that we didn't get a lot of last year. Dotson, 3 catches, 59 yards. You would take that all the time. People last year, Dotson, you made this trade. This is great. Well, he did nothing. He did something. That's what you wanted from him. You wanted him to be that guy, 20 yards a catch from your third guy. That's the backbreaker. That's the guy where you're like, this guy's the one that beat us. That's what you want to see. 7 catches to your tight end. Now, week 2, peel the onion a little bit more. What else can I add? What other wrinkle? The one thing that I had kept asking in the preseason with Kevin Patullo is his background as a pass game coordinator. So is this passing game going to have more layers to it and more, wrinkles? And we saw it in the first week with 2 guys that we didn't see as much of last year as we saw this week. I would imagine, just a hunch, he has plenty of roles for AJ and Devontae planned.
Yeah, I bet they get the ball more. not that that's going out on the limb, but it tends to go that way. And, as you pointed out, that week 1 game in Detroit, that was 2022. Devontae didn't have a catch in that game. The next week he had like 6 for 170 and 2 touchdowns. So It tends to go that way. And will most likely happen again. At Mike Gill Show, make sure you follow Mike on the X platform and subscribe to his YouTube page. Same name, at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him. 97.3 down the shore if you're local. 97.5 up in the Philadelphia area on the weekends. Mike, I'll leave you with the Tank Bixby thing. From what, the Eagles are playing up his kick return ability. Kick returns are really important, man. This new rule, moving the touchback from the 30 to 35, over 70% of kickoffs were returns. Crazy spike. You saw it in a number of games where it had impact both ways. If you don't have a kick returner, it's going to hurt you. And if you can't cover kick, it's going to hurt you from a special teams perspective. So getting that type of player, and also lesser, but waiving Gabe Hall. I did not expect that. They got 7 edge rushers on this team, and they only dressed 4 in week 1. What the hell do you need Azeez Ojulari and Obo for?
Good point. I wonder if they said, hey, we got through a game without a defensive tackle. If we add him back, we only need the 4 guys, right? We don't really have to. Now, Gabe Hall is a guy that they seemingly like, but maybe that is a sign that they're not 100%, I don't say comfortable with their edge guys still. Maybe they want to give them another chance to see in game mode and say, hey, we like these guys. If these guys don't get the job done, we like these guys and we like to keep them around. But the kickoff return thing, we were wondering on our show last year and even throughout was the preseason here is the 5 extra yards going to be enough to deter people to now give you the ball? Like, where is the line of demarcation where, I don't want to give you the ball at the 35. I'll give it to you at the 30, but not the 35. It seems that that's the line. The 35 was too much yardage. The 30, we're okay with. Take the ball at the 30-yard line. But you think about that. You used to have to go 80 yards to go for a touchdown. And then they moved it to 70 and then, 65. I mean, it is a big difference with these offenses where they only have to go. And really, you only have to go about 30 yards to get points now if you kick it into the end zone. So Bixby, I think we all look back at the kick return he had against the Eagles. And I think he ran right through Nolan Smith on that kick return there. And I think the Eagles kind of were like, okay, listen, this is a new game. And if Shipley's out, we don't have a guy that we like in that role. Let's go get a guy that is now, the guy from the Bears. This is years ago.
Devin Hester.
Devin Hester was such a weapon for them. I mean, he was legitimately a weapon where if you were in a fantasy football league, you were drafting the Bears defense in like the 5th round to try to get this guy on your team. Can the Eagles get themselves a weapon that they really haven't had, guys? In the return game, because everyone kicks it, you can't even, name guys who return kicks for this. They were just throwing guys to catch the ball in the end zone. To have another weapon, and then obviously, I don't imagine he has a big role in the offense, but Shipley did play well in his limited time the other day. So it would have been interesting to see what kind of role they had for him. And now that role is gone. Does that role go to Dylan, or do they try to incorporate Bixby into that role?
I think they're going to try and incorporate Bixby. I know it's talked about as the kick returner, but I don't know. The guy ran for almost 800 yards behind the Jags O-line. What can he do behind the Eagles O-line? I'm thinking 1,000 plus at least if he got the reps. I don't know. We'll see what they use him for, but I do like the addition.
He has a nose for the end zone.
Yeah, and he runs hard. That's what I like about him. He runs real hard.
Well, his nickname is Tank.
I said yesterday on the show and after you left, John, what an iconic NFL running back name. Tank Bixby. That's like a perfect name for an NFL running back.
Yeah, it's like Tank McNamara.
What did he say? Because his helmet fell off or something, and when he was playing Pop Warner, his helmet fell off. His mom said, "You look like a tank out there with your helmet running through people still."
Yeah, I gotta look into that story. Mike, good stuff, man. Appreciate you doing it. Last week I had to text you. I forgot to get it. You got a prediction for the game? I know it's a little early. Last week we had the game Thursday, so you reserve the right to change on your program. But what way you leaning here on Birds 365 on a Wednesday?
Well, I mean, this is a tough spot, but I feel like if Philadelphia is really a special team, they find a way in this type of game against a team that is obviously on the ropes here. Now, you would say the other side, this is a championship team that doesn't want to give it up. They're 3-time AFC champions, 2 Super Bowls in that mix as well. Plus, this has been the premier team in the AFC West. They lose this game and the Chargers happen to win. The Chargers play the Colts, I think. One of those teams is going to be 2-0, so that's a fun game. But I think if Philadelphia is special, you go on the road and you win this game. Like you say, look, people, you're not going to question us. We're the best team in this league. And this is the kind of game you prove it. This will be the most watched game of the entire weekend, 4:25 Sunday on Fox. And I think Philly is just a flat-out better team. Home, road, doesn't really matter in this situation. They're a better team, and they win the game.
I agree. Mike Gill, good stuff, brother. Appreciate you joining in today. Make sure you guys follow him on all his platforms at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him on 97.3 and 97.5. Mike, thanks for being here today, brother. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys. See you.